I worked in talent acquisition for 15 years, sitting in interviews with hiring managers or getting feedback immediately after, conducting interviews myself. All in all, I did about 10,000 interviews. But what I found really interesting is when I think back to when the hiring managers and even I was most excited about a candidate, and it was when a candidate asked insightful questions. It truly is the lasting impression moment of the interview. Now, are you confused on what to ask? Then stay tuned because I'm going to give you 7 questions that you should ask in every interview. Hello there, my name is Sarah Curto, and I am the career coach who helps unhappy workers go from dreading their days to finding work they love, where they are excited when they wake up in the morning, when they end the day energized, and they love every day, not just the weekends. Every week I come here to share my behind the secrets, things that I learned as a recruiter for 15 years. And also all of the patterns I see as a career coach who's helped over 500 people find work they love in my 5 years as a career coach. So hit subscribe so that you don't miss a single training, single lesson, single video. Okay, the whole interview is important. Every step along the way is important. But it is more than just answering questions. We focus so much of our time and energy in our prep on answering those questions. So to properly prepare for an interview, we must actually prepare for every part of the interview. And one area of prep that I know goes ignored is coming up with questions to ask at the end. And there is nothing worse, let me tell you, than having a great interviewee ask boring and lame questions or have no questions to ask at all. It happens all of the time. And the thing is asking insightful questions, why people get so excited about it is because it shows intelligence, shows your critical thinking ability, it shows your interest in the job. Honestly, nothing says, I'm not interested or I don't care when you don't have any questions to ask, or you only have that one question, what are the next steps? Now, it's okay to ask that question, but you want to ask it with some other questions, or ask questions that have already been answered that shows you haven't really been listening. Plus, the thing is we also think the purpose of the interview is to get the offer, and that is a purpose of the interview. But the purpose of the interview is also for you to decide if this is the role you want next. And how can you do that when you're not asking questions to get the information you need to decide whether or not this is right for you? Now, I know that people get confused on what questions they can ask or should ask, and they want to know some interview questioning strategies with sample questions, which is why I'm here today. I'm going to give you 7 questions, and they're sort of categorized a little bit, that will show your interest, plus your intelligence, your creativity, and your savviness. Okay, so the first questioning strategy is ask questions about the company. Now, these can be generalized questions, but they can also be specific questions garnered from the research you have done. So a question you could potentially ask would be like, I saw that company name has gone through a merger and acquisition with company name, and I was wondering how that has impacted the day-to-day operations. Now, this is a great question. You can even, it doesn't have to be a merger and acquisition, though that is quite common these days. It could also be a move of office, a change in leadership, a change in work style, like if they've gone hybrid or fully remote or fully back in the office, any sort of change that's recently happened, you can ask about how that has impacted the work. It's a great, savvy question to ask. Okay, question number 2. With the move to a more digital work world, I'm curious what measures company name has implemented to match their competitors. So this is a great question to ask in this very transitional moment in time that we are in right now. We went from like a lot of in office to fully remote, and now companies are finding their footing. Now, what we hear from employees is that while not all of them want fully remote, it seems like the majority want some form of hybrid work. And so this is a good question if you're curious about that and it hasn't been laid out there and you didn't want to ask fully outright, do you support hybrid? Okay, the second strategy for asking questions is ask about the interviewer. Whenever I bring this up, people say, am I allowed to do that? Yes, you're allowed to do that. Now, the great thing about asking about the interviewer is it really allows to build chemistry. When you think about you're building a relationship, which is an interview, like you're building a relationship with someone you potentially will be and maybe want to work with, as you ask them questions about themselves, they're asking questions about you. So I want you to ask questions about them. So a question you could ask is, I researched you on LinkedIn and saw that you've been here for 5 years. What has brought you to company name in the first place? And what has kept you here? This is a great question. I used to say, instead of research, was I stalked you on LinkedIn, just to add a little bit of dad jokiness to it. But I think it's great to ask this question. And if they're fairly new, then ask what brought them to it. If they've been there a really long time, what has kept you here? So depending on that focus, you can also ask if you're doing like a career change and they had a career change at some point in their past, or this one involved a career change, an industry change, or a pivot, you can also ask them about that. Another question you can ask would be, what are some of the biggest challenges you face or have faced on this team with this upcoming role? Any sort of question like that, I think is a great question to ask. The third category of questions that you want to think of or strategies is you can ask specifically about the role. Now, chances are, I would hope, the interviewer, especially if it's the hiring manager, will tell you more about the role. So I do want you to pay careful attention to what they're saying because it may lead to a great question. And also, if it does lead to a great question, I don't want you to like mentally remember to ask at the end. I want you to pop right in there and ask the question right away. And let's create a conversation here. It's the best way to do it, and it's an amazing way to build chemistry. But some other great questions that you can ask is, why is this role open? What were the challenges the incumbent faced, or what led to the creation of this new role if it's a new role? That way we're getting key information that will help us as we go down the line. Number 6, what would you say are the critical priorities that need to be addressed by this individual in the first 3 months? Now, this is why I like this question, or versions of this question. What does success look for this role or look like for this role? What does good look like for this role? What are the specific goals and targets that you have? Like something about those first few months. Because not only it's going to help inform your stories going forward, it will also help you with negotiating. Because once we get to negotiating, you can talk about, these are your critical priorities, and this is why I'm the person you're going to want to hire, and this is why you need to show me the money. You need to pay me more. Okay, so that's a great question to ask. And then the last is potentially you might want to be bold. The last interview strategy. Now, if the interview has gone well, then don't be afraid to go for broke. If the interview has not gone well, don't be afraid to go for broke. Leave it all on the table. I loved this question. It was bold. It was super nerve-wracking as a nervous interviewer. But I don't know. I just really loved the conversation that would come from it. So having received and reviewed my resume, my assessments, and interviewing me, I'm curious if there is any concerns you have about my fit for the role. The great thing about this question is if they don't happen to have any concerns, it allows it makes them think like, oh yeah, this person is like, check, 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 makes them leave the room thinking that. But if they do have concerns, it allows you to counter them, allows you to bring up opportunities or instances of time where you've overcome similar challenges in the past. It can open up the door to conversation about how to develop certain skills. And it shows them your confidence in your ability to learn and take on new roles if they do have concerns. Okay, there are a few things that set apart a person apart in an interview more than insightful questions. Honestly, like I don't know a single hiring manager that hasn't gotten really excited about a candidate who wowed them with their questioning strategies and techniques. So that could be your ticket to the offer. And it's not that hard. Use one of the 7 questions. Let me know in the comments below which question you're going to do or which insightful question you've used in the past that you could tell the hiring manager loved. Let's share them with the world. Now, if you liked this training, then make sure you subscribe to the channel because next week I'm going to be back here with another one. Until then, have a great week. Happy job searching, happy career changing, happy career pivoting, happy all of the things. Let me know how I can help you not dread your work days anymore. Take care. See you next week.